Okay, this video is going to explain a Enphase system IQ8 microinverters on the roof with a smart switch and IQ Combiner 4 made for the IQ8s. I want to set this system up so it has possibility for future batteries. We don't have a battery yet. I'll give you some tips on what you need to do to make sure your system gets commissioned right the first time until you get that battery. It is in a configuration that could be sunlight backup, but Enphase makes you do a lot of extra parts and pieces to get that sunlight backup working, especially that sunlight backup. It's only good for about 4 circuits. You know, it's not much during the day. So we have a 100 amp sub panel feed coming out of there, coming through the Enphase transfer switch, smart switch. It feeds in here main lug, so it's from a 100 amp breaker in the main panel. It feeds in there, goes through the transfer switch. We have the solar being backfed there, AC Combiner. The Envoy has to be powered out of here. I've tried it from what the cover in the combiner says out of the critical load panel. That just is not going to work. It doesn't work, so you have to power it out of the smart switch. 100 amp load feed, that's going to go to our main lug 100 amp panel that's backed up. So that's the smart switch without batteries. Eventually we're going to have a battery, but you know, we want to set this up for success now. You know, it's a solar only at this point. So what you have to do is when you're commissioning the system, you have to not scan in the smart switch yet. You got to leave that out. If you scan that smart switch in, it's going to look for it, and it can't be removed. And so it's going to look for that smart switch. It's going to say, oh, you're going to do sunlight backup, and then it's going to require you to install a bunch of other pieces that you don't want to yet. And then you're not going to need down the road when you get the battery, like the load controller. You know, it says you are required to have a load controller, and it won't let you start the system up in solar only mode if it knows you have a transfer switch, the smart switch. So if you're going to do the batteries later, say you're doing a 200 amp upgrade and you want to stick that in as the main service disconnect, just don't scan that in yet until you're ready for batteries. Some people are, you know, need a year or so because they just bought a solar system, need a year or so to get enough to get a battery or two, depending on what you're backing up. So yeah, that's the video of this Enphase system. Again, there's the 100 amp feed coming in from the main panel, goes through the smart switch, critical load or the load output breaker goes to the backed up sub panel, if you will. And then there's the AC Combiner. We have 2 strings of IQ8 inverters, one of 11, one of 8 on 2 separate roof lines. So you can see that's the conduit going down into the crawl space. It goes over to the south facing, and then this conduit goes over and goes up to the east facing array. So that's it. I've been through a lot of commissioning with Enphase, and you just kind of have to get the right order of operation. So solar only with a transfer switch or smart switch, only scan in the combiner.